having more fun with it. Number 4, be adventurous, creative, and open-minded. One of our questions for the interview is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how lucky are you in life? 1 is, I don't know why bad things always seem to happen to me. And 10 is, I don't know why good things always seem to happen to me. Well, we don't want to hire the 1s because they're bad luck and they'll bring bad luck to Zappos, and that's not good for us. But this was actually inspired by a research study I'd read about a few years ago where they actually asked that exact same question to a random group of people, got answers all over the board, and then afterwards they had the subjects do a task. And the task was to go through a newspaper and count the number of photos that were in that newspaper, and when they were done, give the answer to the researcher. But what the participants didn't know was that it was actually a fake newspaper. And sprinkled throughout the newspaper were these headlines that would say things like, if you're reading this headline, you can stop, the answer's 37, plus collect an extra $100. And what they found was that the people that consider themselves unlucky in life generally didn't notice the headlines. But, they went through the task at hand and eventually came up with the right answer. And the people that consider themselves lucky in life generally stopped early and made an extra $100. So the takeaway is that it's not so much that people are inherently lucky or unlucky, but luck is really more about being open to opportunity beyond just how the task or situation presents itself. And so that's why we asked that question for core value number 4. One of our other core values is about being open and honest, and we really embrace transparency, whether it's with our customers, with our employees, or with our vendors. So, for example, with our customers, last quarter, we have a quarterly all-hands meeting, and last quarter we actually live streamed that on the internet to the public. For employees, we have this monthly newsletter called Ask Anything, where it's literally that. Employees can ask about financials or what brands we're going to carry or really any question we want, and we'll get the right person to answer that question and then compile it all with the questions anonymously and then send it out as a newsletter to our employees once a month. And with our vendors, we have an extranet. We work with about 1,500 different brands, and they can all log into our extranet, our back-end system, and view the exact same information our own buyers and merchandisers can see. So they can see on-hand inventory, what sales are, profitability, markdowns, and so on. And when we first opened this up to them, their response was great. Love all this extra information, but aren't you worried the information is going to get into the hands of competitors? And I'm sure realistically, some of the information probably does make its way into the hands of competitors at some point. But on the flip side, we now have an extra 1,500 pairs of eyes helping us co-manage our business. And they're not on our payroll. And a lot of times they'll catch stuff that our own buyers or merchandisers might miss because our buyers and merchandisers have portfolios of anywhere from 20 to 30 brands. So they may miss that one style that's taking off. And our brand partners are really just focused on this and logging in several times a day, reading the nightly email reports, and it really just makes them a true partner in the business. So this is a common reaction we get. Happy for you, Zappos. You have this great culture, but the stuff you do would never work at my company. And what's interesting is that from the research that was done in Good to Great, what they found was that it actually doesn't matter what your core values are. So I'm not up here trying to say other companies should adopt the Zappos culture and core values, because in most cases that would probably not be the right choice, the right decision for another company. But what I am saying is that having core values that you actually commit to is what matters. It's not what the core values are themselves. And what they found was the most important thing in their research was that you had a strong culture, that you had alignment throughout the organization. That's where the real power comes from. And when we rolled out our core values, it was actually one of those things that even myself kind of resisted initially because it felt like one of those big corporate things to do. But what we found was when we really committed to them, and truly committed meaning willing to hire and fire people based on them, willing to do performance reviews based on them, within a relatively short period of time, the entire organization really changed when it became integrated in our language and our default way of thinking. And it empowers every single employee to really make decisions for themselves. They just need to ask, what's our long-term vision, and is this more in line with our core values or less in line with our core values? And it also enables employees to call each other out, for whether, even if they're in different departments or if it's a frontline employee calling out a VP. So we found that it's been hugely, hugely powerful, and really is what enables us to scale our culture. And part of it is the only way a culture can scale. Most companies, as they get bigger, the company culture goes downhill over time. Not only do we not want that to happen, but we actually want it to get stronger and stronger. And the only way that can happen is if every employee views as part of his or her job description living and inspiring the culture in others. And so one analogy I like to think of sometimes is like when you watch the Discovery Channel and over the Serengeti or whatever, there's a flock of 50,000 birds flying, and if you take a step back, it looks like this one giant organism that's flying in unison. And the reality is there is no head bird that is leading the group, but what there are every bird has pretty much the same DNA, and they have very simple instructions encoded in their DNA, like stay this many number of inches away from the bird on the right, this many from the left, and so on. And when they all follow those same rules, they're able to flock together. And so analogously, the core values are like the DNA that enables the birds to function as a unit, that whether it's 10 birds or 50,000 birds. And that's really how we're thinking of how we're going to scale the company culture at Zappos. I'm going to make this presentation available, but sometimes the reaction that we get from other companies is, okay, you're an internet company, special rules apply to you. And the reason why I included those other stories in there are because one of them, for example, is the Atlanta Refrigeration Company in Atlanta, Georgia. They do refrigeration repairs out in the field. And so in some ways, you can't think of a more opposite company or industry than Zappos. And they came through our offices and then actually went through our Zappos Insights program, where we helped them figure out their core values and how to build their own strong cultures. And then they went back, and within a relatively short period of time, their customers are happier, their employees are happier. It's really neat actually seeing the before and after pictures, and their profits and revenues are up. So it's just pretty cool seeing the same concepts apply and work in other industries. So going back to Good to Great and tribal leadership, I talked about how there were two important ingredients that separated the great companies from just the good ones. First one was culture. And then the second one was that, and this again I think surprised the researchers, was that the great companies had a vision that had a higher purpose beyond just money or profits or being number one in a market. And kind of the irony there is that by not making profits the number one priority of the company, or the higher purpose of the company, it actually enabled these companies to generate more profits in the long term. So sometimes when I speak at entrepreneur conferences, I get asked, what's a good market to go into where it can make a lot of money? And my response to them is, instead of thinking about where you can make a lot of money, think about what are you so passionate about doing that you'd be happy doing it for 10 years, and even if you never made a dime, and that's what you should be doing. And kind of the ironic thing is the money will actually follow. So we've all heard of Craigslist. He didn't set out to make money. He was passionate about the community, and now it's one of the top trafficked websites on the internet. So I like to say chase the vision, not the money.